Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 22nd, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. I had a good Thursday. My stomach did a lot better today, which I was thrilled about. Overall, the day was just great just for that alone. But work was solid, no complaints. Also, today is my Friday. Love that for me. More or less just for the way the weekend's lining up, I just requested off so I can just, get my laundry and stuff done, just, adult stuff, blah, blah, blah. But then just cascade into a 4-day weekend. So I'm very excited. I'm very hype. Hopefully, knock on some wood, all my plans go well. I get to see my homies, have some good times ahead. So yeah, we love that. Let's see here. Post work though, we went to the gym. Gym was solid. It was great. I feel like we'll throw in a great there. We got to hit all our machines. It wasn't too busy, which I like. The Smith machine was kind of occupied, but then I hit the free weights and then it got opened. I'm like, perfect, let's go. And I got through all my machines. No injuries were occurred. I don't feel sore or anything. I'm ready for a heavy lift day tomorrow, hopefully. So yeah, I'm in a good spot, a good place for it. I'd say the only snag, is this weather. This weather is so icky. It's so cold for a summer. I'm having a cold summer. Ugh, it's just not it. And a younger me would love this. But where I'm at now, how not where I'm at, I'm still in Ohio. But you know what I mean? Like how I'm not feeling it. Okay, I'm supposed to be sweating it out right now, complaining about how hot it is. And so things just don't feel right, I guess. But hey, it's okay. It's nice to, I guess, wear hoodies and sweatpants still in the middle of May. Actually, towards the end of May. What am I saying? Anyway, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into some news. All right. First story comes from CBS News. Two Israeli embassy staff shot and killed outside Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. Two Israeli embassy employees, including an American, were shot and killed Wednesday night as they left the Jewish Capitol Museum in Washington, D.C., officials said. A suspect is in custody. The victims have been identified as Yaron Leshchinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. Law enforcement officials described the attack as targeted and said the suspect shouted "Free Palestine" as he was being detained. The shooting was being investigated as a hate crime, a law enforcement source said. Milgram was from Kansas. Leshchinsky was an Israeli citizen. Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Mike Herzog, said. Yet Yachiel Leiter, Israel's ambassador to the U.S., told reporters they were on the verge of getting engaged. Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela A. Smith said the shooting was reported at 9:08 p.m. local time and occurred outside the museum, which is located near an FBI field office and is in the heart of the U.S. Capitol. Responding officers found the victims with gunshot wounds, unconscious, and not breathing. The D.C. Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department told CBS News. Scrolling ahead a bit more here. The suspect, identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, was initially observed pacing back and forth outside of the museum before he approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and shot the 2 victims. Let's see. The suspect entered the museum immediately following the shooting and was arrested by museum security, the police chief reported. The suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, Smith said, adding that he implied that he committed the offense. A woman who encountered the suspect after the shooting said he reached into his bag, pulled out a keffiyeh, and said, "I did it. I did it for Gaza," before he shouted, "Free Palestine." Attorney General Pam Bondi told reporters Thursday that the suspect was believed to have acted alone. She said he will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So yeah, I mean, they're potentially talking about all the way up to a death sentence for this guy. Let's see. And obviously they're going to be charging this as like a hate crime. They're going to be taking the shit all the way up. I think this is not the way to go about it. You know what I mean? This is violence. To me, this feels very impulsive. You could say for Rodriguez, like, this was his stance that, you know, I know that I saw, he had made a post where it's like, hey, don't put the election on me. I voted for Hamas. And I think he kind of took this rhetoric and said, I fully mean this to the full extent. I think this is how I'm going to support Gaza. And he decided to kill 2 people who were Israeli embassy staff, right? And that just isn't going to do anything here. It's not going to accomplish anything. Now, these 2 people are dead, and now you're going to jail, and they are going to say, oh, this is an anti-Semitic crime. And once again, like, how have you helped Gaza in any way, shape, or form? So that is very upsetting to me. I know we're just starting off with a really rough one, but it was a big story. I know it's going to be definitely, you know, making the news cycle probably for the next few days. It's going to be a lot of talk. So I wanted to start off with that. Yeah, fucking heavy shit. But let's go ahead and move on to the next story from the ABC News. Supreme Court blocks Oklahoma from launching taxpayer-funded religious charter school. The Supreme Court on Thursday, in a rare deadlocked 4-4 ruling, said Oklahoma cannot create the nation's first religious charter school funded directly with taxpayer dollars. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, a Catholic, did not take part in the decision, recusing from the case early on, presumably given her ties to the Notre Dame Law School clinic that supported the Catholic Archdiocese effort to create the school. But she did not explain her decision. Excuse me. The Supreme Court issued a one-line opinion upholding the Oklahoma Supreme Court's ruling that taxpayer-funded religious schools would violate both the state and U.S. constitutions. The judgment is affirmed by an equally divided court. The Supreme Court wrote an unsigned ruling, so it is not known how each justice voted on the issue. I hate that part. I really want to know how this got split up. I mean, this is the first time that I've ever seen this happen, where you have a Justice 1 recuse himself in this way, and then in this case, it is split right down the middle. So this is big, and the fact that we just have no idea who voted who, like technically the majority should have won out. The conservative majority should have won out, right? So that somebody flip Philadelphia. So I would really want to know, but I mean, hey, maybe that'll leak. Oh, I'd love a good Supreme Court leak. Man, I miss a SCOTUS leak right now. I'm due for one. That'd be neat. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But either way, this is big for this specific case. This means that essentially it is a setback for this whole religious movement trying to essentially say, hey, we want to blend this. We want to have it together, you know? We want to have a religious charter school. Let us have it. Like, and I think this is crazy too, because the argument is if you don't let us have this, you're being like, it's religious bigotry. It's like, it's oppressive to religion. And I'm like, that conversation doesn't make sense to me. You can go off and just do your own thing. You can make your own religious private school, and then people can opt in and put their kids into that. Like, this is a different thing. Like, this thing can just be a charter school that's not religious. Like, it's weird that you're trying to, like, integrate it to me. Like, but hey, I mean, this was still split down the middle. Because the High Court divided evenly, its decision is not a binding precedent nationwide, and sets the stage for the entire court to reconsider the issue in a future case, perhaps from another state. And I also imagine, now that I know what I know with Amy Coney Barrett and why, at least a little bit more information, even though she hasn't said at least what is suspected, she would probably then not recuse herself. It wasn't just because she's Catholic, though I think that that is kind of enough of a reason. But once again, or I shouldn't say once again, when it comes to these justices, they usually don't opt out. We've seen Alito not opt out in a situation where it definitely seemed like you should. We've seen Clarence Thomas not. So I thought this was just going to be part of the course that, like, oh, sure, this looks a little untoward, but I'm a Supreme Court justice. I can be non-biased. But no, Coney Barrett said, no, I have a bias here. I'm not going to. And I'm not saying that that's unprecedented, but like it doesn't happen often. And usually with these, especially the conservative justices, I feel like they never do. But hey, they were willing to on this one. At least Coney Barrett was. And, hey, interesting shakeout there with this case. There are some more cases that I'm probably going to be leaving on the table, I think, when it comes to SCOTUS. In terms of like Trump stuff, like I think he can like fire independent heads of agencies. That's kind of like some executive order shit that kind of got ran all the way up. I don't just feel like getting into the weeds about that. It's one of those for now things too. So it's like, this is how we're ruling for now that he can fire these people. So essentially you're giving him the power to do that, right? So like, why are we even like, it just gives me a headache. So I'm probably not going to cover it more outside of this little side talk bubble that we're doing right now, unless it gets more coverage and then I feel more compelled. Anyway, let's go ahead and I'm going to take a quick little water break. And then we'll continue onwards. All right. From the Associated Press. A music talent agency says 3 employees died on a plane that crashed into a San Diego neighborhood. The music agency Sound Talent Group said Thursday that 3 of its employees, including co-founder Dave Shapiro, died on the private plane that crashed into a San Diego neighborhood. Shapiro is listed as the owner of the plane and has a pilot's license, according to the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. Shapiro also owned a flight school called Velocity Aviation and a record label, Velocity Records, according to his LinkedIn page. Excuse me. The agency didn't share the names of the other 2 employees who died. We are devastated by the loss of our co-founder, colleagues, and friends. Our hearts go out to their families and to everyone impacted by today's tragedy, the agency said in a statement. Sound Talent Group has represented artists including American pop band Hanson, American singer-songwriter Vanessa Carlton, and Canadian rock group Sum 41. Hanson is perhaps the best known for its earworm 1990s pop hit Bop. Bop, see me bop, bop, see me bop, see me bop, I don't know. That's close. I don't know. You know, if you had to be there, it was a vibe. The music video, it's cool. Bunch of little blonde kids, they were vibing. You know, hell yeah. Anyway, American rock bands such as Rose Colored World and Concrete Castles and the Japanese heavy metal band Nemophilia are signed to Shapiro's Velocity Records. And then they also mention again about his flight school, Velocity Aviation. San Diego authorities earlier said 2 people had died. The total number of fatalities is unknown, but 6 people were on board the plane, according to the FAA. The private jet crashed early Thursday into a neighborhood of U.S. Navy-owned housing in San Diego during foggy weather, igniting at least 1 home and numerous vehicles parked on the street. The plane clipped power lines before slamming into a house, said Elliot Simpson with the National Transportation Safety Board. Was that, the NTSB. Several people were injured while trying to flee after the crash just before 4 a.m. in Murphy Canyon, the largest neighborhood of Navy-owned housing in the country. Others were treated for smoke inhalation, authorities said. At least 1 home was destroyed with its front heavily burned and its roof partially collapsed. About 10 others suffered damage at the site where half a dozen vehicles were melted and scorched into burned shells. The rest of the article kind of covers, testimonials for people who went through this shit. It definitely sounds like almost like an Armageddon scene. You just have fire and jet fuel. Just big loud bangs, like waking you up, and like next thing you know, you're like just trying to get your family out of there. Like definitely really fucking crazy shit. They allude that the weather might be a main culprit on how this kind of happens. You know, with the foggy weather, you really have to, like, you can't see in front of yourself. Like, you can only rely on the right, like, radar so much. But once again, that's, you know, we're at the tip of this. It's not like we really have that many details. That being said, you know, then they go on to, like, you know, some other recaps and stuff, previous situations that have happened, like this, or, you know, in San Diego area. We'll leave those to, you know, if you're a real reader, by all means, take it. But let's go ahead and get to our last story for the day. It's a bit lighter, a bit less serious, but Penny, for your thoughts? Let's go ahead and take our last break, and we'll go ahead and close it out. Ooh. Ooh wee. All right. Last story is also from the Associated Press. Stop making sense. U.S. Mint moves forward with plans to kill the penny. So long, Abraham Lincoln. Again. No. The Trump administration says making sense doesn't make sense anymore. Also, love a banger pun. All puns are intended on this podcast, by the way. So I appreciate it when a news outlet does one. Also, I know that they did one in the headline. Props. Especially because it was a good one. The U.S. Mint has made its final order of penny blanks and plans to stop producing the coin when those run out. A Treasury Department official confirmed Thursday. This move comes as the cost of making pennies has increased markedly, up to or by upward of 20% in 2024, according to the Treasury. By stopping the penny's production, the Treasury expects an immediate annual savings of $56 million in reduced material costs, according to the official, who is not authorized to discuss the matter publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity to preview the news. In February, President Donald Trump announced that he had ordered his administration to cease production of the 1-cent coin. So yeah, that is when we initially covered this story. Far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful, Trump wrote at the time in his post on Truth Social. I've instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. There are about 114 billion pennies currently in circulation in the United States. That's $1.14 billion. But they are greatly underutilized, the Treasury says. The penny was one of the first coins made by the U.S. Mint after its establishment in 1792. The nation's Treasury Secretary has the authority to mint and issue coins in amounts the Secretary decides are necessary to meet the needs of the United States. Advocates for ditching the penny cite its high production cost, almost 4 cents per penny now, according to the U.S. Mint, and limited utility. Fans of the penny cite its usefulness in charity drives and relative bargain in production costs compared with the nickel, which costs almost 14 cents to mint. Now, I've kind of, delved into the penny matrix, for the people who are for, the people who are against. I've heard a little bit on the econ side that one of the caveats to cutting the penny is that technically it's going to force pretty much all businesses, especially in this affects, I feel like, the most like smaller businesses, to be like, hey, we can't do pennies anymore. They're gone. Okay, so we have to then rely on nickels. So that bumps any of our stuff up. Like, it's just going to make it then a little bit more expensive because we're not going to make it cheaper. We're not going to eat it. So yeah, we have to bump it up. So therefore, it's going to potentially affect how you're going to view a thing because it's going to be potentially more money. All that kind of shit, right? So, that's potentially a caveat. Could be wrong. This is maybe like economic theory here on like how it's going to shake out or whatever. But also, we're going to have to make more nickels to compensate now the lack of pennies, because we're still going to use coins. Like, there's still going to be nickels, there's still going to be dimes, still going to be quarters, all that shit. So, the jury's still out on, is this going to be a good thing in terms of ditching it? That being said, there's people who like, oh, well, the penny's just a good collectible thing and we shouldn't get rid of it. It's important, blah, 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 blah. Me personally, I could give a rat damn about a fucking penny. I don't like change, y'all. I don't like change, and I don't like change. You feel me? No, thank you. That being said, I do have like a whole jar of like pennies and dimes and stuff that I just keep because I don't like using it, but maybe eventually I'm gonna like convert it or something. So I don't know. Maybe that's gonna be a little bit of a collectible from now on. That being said, I mean, it's still up to Congress. This is not the first time that we've had conversations to kill the penny, just like we've had conversations about daylight savings and whether or not we're going to get rid of that. But yeah, we still have that. So maybe this isn't the final death knell of the penny. But that being said, this could very much well be it. So, hey, so it goes. So it fucking goes. That is going to be it. I'll leave it there for the day. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify, or follow on Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you're listening on right now. Hit that follow button. Squad up, whatever. Keeps you up with the Joneses. Helps my algorithm. It's a win-win, right? Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. Those are all cool ways to help out the podcast, help out the effort. But if you don't, that's okay. I really just appreciate you tuning in, hearing me yap and whine about whatever the fuck's going on, however my day went, Oh, it's so cold in the summer. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.